Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Cook Brumfield, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today as your leadership training specialist. Before we get started, did you know that by participating in this webinar, you can qualify for the Special Leadership Development PIN? What you have to do: one, you have to attend at least 6 of these engaging and informative webinars. Two, absorb all the knowledge shared at the webinars. And three, apply what you have learned in at the webinars in your units and or your districts to show us how you're making a difference. Once you've completed these steps and demonstrated your leadership actions, you'll unlock the exclusive key to getting the Leadership Development Award pin. It's not just a pin, it's a symbol of your dedication and excellence as a leader in our community. So now let's dive it right in. If you have any questions or thoughts throughout the webinar, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm excited to share some exciting insights with you. But before we begin, I'd like to turn it over to our president, our New York State president, so she can bring greetings on behalf of the New York State PTA.
Thank you, Robin. It's certainly a pleasure to be here tonight, and I welcome everybody for this, what is going to be a most informative webinar. As I mentioned at my post on Facebook, our insurance policy is one of the most important pieces in our toolkit and most valuable to know that our officers, our funds, and our interactions with our PTA community are all protected under our one policy for what I consider a bargain price of $350 a year is really a relief and a comfort to anybody who's interested in serving as a volunteer or is currently serving as a volunteer with us. And then as a bonus, when we want to talk about the insurance policy and share this with our units, with our local leaders, and all of you who have joined us tonight, we have such a wonderful relationship with the AIM company that we've been with for several years now, that President Jamie is here to join us tonight. So I think that we are in excellent hands, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you tonight. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much for your words of encouragement and support. Just so you know, before we get started, there is a special question. So, and I believe our AIM president will be covering the topic, but so that will be the special question that will be the key to unlock the opportunity for you to get the leadership development pin. And the special question is, what is the number one claim that is presented to AIMS on behalf of the PTA? So I'm going to let that marinate, and we'll let our speaker for the evening, Jamie Fagan, come in from AIM. Thank you so much, Jamie. We really appreciate you taking the time to give us this information that is needed for every PTA throughout New York State and beyond. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was a wonderful intro. I appreciate it. I know we're probably not really excited about talking about insurance at 7:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. I want to just say that there is some noise that is happening outside. So please, if it's disruptive at all on your end, just let me know and I will put a stop to it. But with that, I will go ahead and share my screen and get started. All right. So first I want to kind of just introduce myself and AIM for anybody who's not familiar. I know probably most everyone is, but we are an insurance agency in Dallas. We've been doing PTA insurance for 30 years. Literally, our entire business was built on providing commercial insurance to small nonprofits, and the majority of what we do is PTA. So we're proud of our track record and of our expertise in that space. So we want to be a resource to our PTAs and encourage you guys to contact us. We don't have a phone tree. Use us. We know that you are doing the job of basically running a small business as volunteers, and that is ridiculously hard. So just again, feel free to reach out to us anytime. All right, so the overview of the New York State PTA insurance package includes general liability. So this is for your events, and we'll get into each one of these items separately. But general liability, your commercial crime, which is covering your money, things like embezzlement, theft. Then your directors and officers. So this covers your board, anyone really who you put in charge of making decisions on behalf of the organization. All right, so general liability, we're gonna talk about what does it cover. So I'll add a few of these. Protects you against lawsuits resulting from bodily injury and property damage. So there's some confusion at times about what kind of property damage this is. This is not covering your PTA property, like your popcorn machines or things. This is liability. So if you damage the gymnasium floor, or you back up over a hedge and destroy a brick wall or something during an event, something like that, it's property damage for a third party that you damage their property. General liability covers medical payments. So this is just a quick out-of-pocket $5,000 per person. You don't have to file a suit. It's just kid gets hurt, maybe there's a broken arm or something, and the parent doesn't want to file a suit. They just would like some help with the medical payments. It's just a quick, easy access to $5,000 per person, and that's standard. The next one is fairly new within the last couple of years, hired and non-owned auto. This became part of the New York State package. This is for transportation, anybody who's injured during one of your events. So if they're in a hired auto, so if you charter buses, if you are renting a car maybe to transport kids. I don't know how often that occurs, but I know there's vans and things like that are rented. And then non-owned auto liability. So this is really maybe if your parents are using their own auto to drive kids to and from an event. But essentially, this is limited coverage in an effort to protect your organization from any injuries that happened with, in connection with an auto. And that's a limit of $1 million. So I kind of talked about these. It's just in the scope of PTA business. All of the general liability policies should protect PTA members, volunteers, and employees. So we say, we use this because not everybody purchases insurance from AIM, but anytime you purchase a policy, you always want to make sure it covers everybody. And our policy covers, again, your members, your volunteers, and your employees. So if your volunteer is acting on behalf of the PTA and causes someone to be injured, that is covered. The GL policy is $2 million per occurrence, and there is no deductible. So any claims that you make, there is no deductible in connection with that. The playlist of events. So this says, sorry, we do have an updated insurance guide. This is 2023, sorry about that. But the insurance guide it's a summarization of all your coverages. So a lot of what we talk about here today, but one of the pages is called the playlist of events. And this is just a basic guide to, yes, it's covered, no, it's not, or be really cautious about that event. And it's things like the cautious events are bounce houses or, crossing guards, dunk takes. You can see things here like that. And it means that your policy may cover it, but it may be very high risk. And there may be certain activities where if you do this activity, but you don't do the right things, it might or might not be covered. So anytime you're doing a pause activity, something in yellow here, we suggest that you contact us. And again, contact us anytime if you're not sure if something you're doing is a covered event. One of the big ones that we see, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but mechanical rides are an exclusion under our policy, but we have the most comprehensive list of things that are covered. So bounce houses, rock climbing walls, trampoline parks. We not necessarily recommend that you do all of those things, but we do have a very comprehensive list, and we do recommend that you contact us or refer to the playlist of events if you have any questions about that. All right, the next type of coverage in the New York State PTA package is the fidelity bond. So this covers your money. And this is our number one claim, embezzlement. This is the number one claim that we get. The most frequent claim, day in and day out, we get embezzlement claims. General liability, medical, injuries, those are the most expensive, but the most common claim is an embezzlement claim. So we get lots of, PTAs across the nation that say, we don't have a very big budget, but we can only afford general liability, or, but we really push this coverage because we see it nonstop. And as you may know, you probably know a unit that this has happened to. It's happening in malicious cases, in non-malicious cases. People are borrowing money and then not paying it back. But I know you guys have some really good practice in place to check your bank accounts monthly and hopefully catch those things. But even if money is stolen and you don't catch it, you really need this policy in place. So it's a great part of the New York package. And the limit is $50,000 with a $250,000 deductible. And you might say, well, we don't ever have $50,000 in our bank account, but we see a lot of times that money is stolen over a period of time, and we've seen some pretty high amounts. Maybe you would believe it, I don't know, but it's surprising. The third coverage that is covered in the standard package is directors and officers liability. So this protects officers from lawsuits resulting from wrongful acts. So a few of the covered acts include misleading statements, negligent acts, discrimination, or misrepresentation. We feel like this is a really important coverage just because you want your board, your volunteers. I mean, this would really include like your committee chairs, anybody that you are tasking with making decisions on behalf of the PTA. So like, if you're, whether they're elected, appointed, I mean, if you're saying this is your responsibility and we are tasking you with making the decisions on the PTA's behalf, it's probably going to be covered under directors and officers liability. And I will use an example. This is one of my favorite examples that I use every year. But we had a PTA. What normally happens is that the claims under directors and officers, it's very well-meaning people who do the best thing on behalf of the PTA, and somebody takes an issue with it. So the example is PTA was having a meeting, and they knew that there was one member that got unruly every single time and potentially posed danger to other people that were at the meeting. So they invited campus police to be there just in case anything happened. And sure enough, this person got completely out of control, and they asked the campus police to please escort that person for everyone else's safety. Well, they got sued for a violation of the civil rights of this person who was escorted out. So again, they made all the right decisions. They were just trying to protect the PTA members and do the right thing, but they still got sued. So we see that majority of the claims are people just doing the right thing and somebody takes an issue with it. The limit on this policy is $1 million per PTA and 0 deductible. So don't ever hesitate to make a claim. We will steer you in the right direction if you think something like this might be happening. All right, so now we're going to talk about some optional coverage upgrades that are not part of the standard package that you may or may not have need for in your PTA. So the first one is extended medical payment. So remember, we talked about every general liability policy has $5,000 and just kind of quick out-of-pocket access. So if a parent just says, hey, I don't really want to hold you responsible, but I could use some help with these medical payments, you can increase that limit from $5,000 to something higher. What we say is if you are a PTA that is doing bounce houses every year, or you are doing rock climbing walls or trampolines or something where, injuries are likely to occur, and I'm probably Kyle and Robin or Patty, I hope I'm not talking about the too high risk activities too often. I know that these are discouraged items, but if you do take part in these activities, you want to consider upgrading that. Otherwise, the $5,000 is probably good and handy. The next one is media liability. So I don't know how much you may have heard of media liability, but this is a fairly new coverage, probably in the last 5 to 7 years. There was a need for coverage for people posting pictures without permission. People were taking issue with that, or putting something on their website that was maybe considered confidential and somebody took an issue with it. So really, if you are doing, if you have much traffic on your website or on your social media, this is something to consider, just because you never know. I mean, if you're posting even trademarks, maybe you post Chick-fil-A's logo because they're catering one of the events that you're having, but you forget to ask if Chick-fil-A, if it's okay to use their logo, and they have these algorithms that determine, online if you've posted their logo somewhere, and then you get a fine for it. So again, if you have a lot of traffic on social media or your website, contact us. We can talk to you about whether or not this is something you may or may not need. And it ranges from, I think, around $75 to $125 annually, depending on the limit. The last one is property insurance. So this is your actual property. So if you have popcorn machines, actual property of your PTA. However, the bigger property risk that we see is raffle merchandise or fundraising merchandise. So if you take possession of, let's say $5,000 in spiritware or something, and you don't pay for it up front, you sell it and then pay for it afterwards, or chocolate bars, or whatever the fundraiser is. If that property gets damaged or ruined before you have a chance to fundraise and then pay back for it, you obviously owe that money and you're out that money. So we just ask you to consider, do you take possession of large amounts of property, even for short periods of time, because you might need this insurance. We kind of already talked about the details on the additional coverage. So this is the details of the medical payments, and we talked about it. Really just considering a higher limit if you do higher risk activities. And the medical payments will deter a lawsuit. So if you are worried that maybe somebody might sue, and you can just say, hey, let's file a claim and get some medical benefits in place, they might be a lot less likely to sue. And then these are just kind of the breakdown on what we've already talked about, the media liability. So these are lawsuits resulting from social media, and these are the examples that I kind of talked about: posting photographs, trademarks, misrepresentation. And then again, the summary of the property policy protects anything that your PTA owns, and then a list of those things that would be covered under our property policy. That is the end of our, what we touch on for the summary of coverages. We also like to introduce our online renewal process for anybody who hasn't experienced it, or even if you have, a refresher. Well, not recently, but a few years back, we went from doing emailed renewals to doing an online process. So now we have a lot of added benefits in that you guys are getting certificates much more quickly. It's easy. You can go online and pay. So I'll just walk through how you renew online. The renewal date is 7/1, July 1st of every year. And we usually send out the renewal information April, May time period. We're trying to do it 90 days ahead, and then we give a bunch of follow-ups to get you guys all renewed before 7/1. So you will receive a link to renew, like I said, in April, and this is going to be tied to your email. You will go to the AIM website, and then there's a little login on our website, and this will take you to our internal system, where you'll be able to sign in and get access to policy documents, certificates. You can request an additional insured, things like that. But in order to renew, you'll sign in by entering your insured number, which, if you use the email, will be populated here already for you. And then you can just do forgot password and follow those prompts via email. The next step is, once you are able to log in, you will see a page that looks like this. There will be a tile for the new term, and it says renew policy in blue there, and you'll just click that tile, and that will take you through the renewal process. I'm noting that here on this page, there's a profile icon. So if you need to go in and change your email or anything like that, you can change that from here. Once you click that you would like to renew your coverage, it will take you to a page where it lists all your coverages. The New York State standard package will automatically be selected, so you'll know everything that's part of that package. It will also select any optional coverages that you may have had in the past. So if you have media liability or you have upgraded medical payments, that will automatically show here, and you can uncheck them, downgrade them as you like. So you'll just confirm this page and click Buy Now in that top right-hand corner. And then there'll be a few other steps. You'll confirm some acknowledgements, like you agree to, get information via email. You will review your insurance quote. So this snapshot that you see here reviews or summarizes all of the coverages that you selected. And then you'll click Pay Now. And then at that point, you can select that you want to just mail a check in, enter your checking account information, however you'd like to pay. And then upon completion, you'll receive an email to sign your affidavit. And we will, within 2 days, process your application and send you your certificate of insurance. So we hope that that's a lot more convenient. I know in the past, we didn't send them nearly as quickly. You had to wait until a little bit closer to 7/1. But that is it. And if there's any questions, again, just always feel free to reach out to us and ask questions. But that's it. And I'm happy to revisit any of those sections or questions about insurance if we want to do that.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you. There are a few questions in the chat. So I just wanted to go over them, and I just wanted really, the information that you shared was very informative and much appreciated. Thank you so much. So one of the questions that we have in the chat is, and you may have addressed it, but I just want to give everyone an opportunity. They did post their questions. You mentioned bouncy houses. So bouncy houses are allowed?
Bounce houses are allowed.
Okay.
They're just
All right.
discouraged, but
Right, they are
allowed.
discouraged, but they are allowed. And as far as the mechanical machines, you're talking like Ferris wheel or something like that?
Yes, a mechanical ride. So anything that has a mechanical portion of the ride.
Okay, that's not covered.
Correct.
Okay.
Robin,
that's
may I
good to-
jump in here to make a
Absolutely.
clarifying question? So Jamie, when we're talking about bounce houses, if a unit was going to put that into their schedule of events that they were having, we still recommend that they call AIM to get some clarification as to the best procedures that they should follow. Things like making sure that they're set up properly, and things like who's going to watch the bounce house, like who's going to monitor the children there. Does AIM provide all that when we call you?
We wouldn't necessarily ask all of those questions, but when they call us, we will make some suggestions about, it would be wise to get waivers if you can, just because it is a high risk activity. And we suggest that you have somebody kind of manning the bounce house, but we're not going to confirm that that's happening.
Okay, and I'm just going to say to all the people on here, the best person that you could do is somebody who's employed by the bounce house company rather than volunteers, because they might get distracted from their post, but the local employees probably a good choice if you could include that in your plans. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Another question I have here, it's a little long, but I am going to ask it. District leaders are asking high school seniors if they'd like to attend a European educational trip through a private company, ACIS, which has its own liability insurance. These trips are not affiliated with the school district. However, many PTA units advertise on their weekly PTA e-blast. since it is an educational enrichment program for the students, with teachers as chaperone. Is it okay to advertise these senior trips on the PTA e-blast?
That's a great question. So what we typically say is you just want to be careful about being seen as a sponsor of these activities, because if there's a flyer floating around that says, New York PTA and look at this event, and it appears that it's potentially your event, they're going to obviously look and see, was this really a New York PTA event? But just the fact that you appear to be a co-sponsor kind of creates a complication. So we just really recommend that if you're going to promote something that is not your event, you are very clear about sharing it, but not promoting it and naming whose event it is.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. Another question came about is, can you speak about the coverage / liability when PTAs promote a non-PTA event, i.e. in the newsletter, we may include, I guess this may have covered just what you said, listing community events that are not PTA sponsored. And I think you kind of just spoke about that.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I think it's okay. You just want to be careful.
Right. It also says, the person said that I saw that there's $1 million coverage for order. We are under the impression that PTAs cannot pay for any busing because it was not covered under our insurance. Can you speak on that?
Yes. It used to not be covered. It is something that is a newer coverage. There are times when we see that units are just paying for the transportation of a school event. So we don't recommend that you do that. We recommend that you gift the funds if this is a school event, because then you're going to be held liable. But if it is your event and you would like to provide transportation, that is okay. And if you, you get school bus transportation for your event, then there is coverage if someone is hurt in connection with that school bus, that auto transportation.
Respectfully, I understand it's a new component to AIM, but it's just so much easier for us. I just feel to just really be safe and sorry and just have the coverage of transportation covered by the district, and this way we have no liabilities. But if a PTA unit would like to explore that more, they can definitely give you guys a call to see how it can be done.
It is a standard part of the package, so it is
Mhm.
already included, but we would encourage you to call us to talk about the transportation that you're doing, just to make sure that is a covered part of your event.
Sure. We have another question from Kelly. Kelly says, we were told in order to roller skating, I guess to go roller skating, we should include a waiver. Is there anything specific that needs to be included in this waiver? I guess for roller skating, ice skating, things like that.
Yeah, so what I will say is we really encourage waivers, but I do want to let everybody know that there is nothing in your policy that says, well, if you didn't have a waiver, we're not going to give you coverage. It is not a mandate under the policy, but they do act as a deterrent. And after years of experience, we see where the risk is and where this kind of makes a difference. And so roller skating is a big one because we see a lot of injuries roller skating. So an answer about what should be included, honestly, the most well-written, the $750,000 or $50 an hour attorney and the $250 hour attorney probably is going to be an equal thing, because at the end of the day, if you have to use this document in court, it's probably not going to hold up either way. The real value in a waiver is that it is a deterrent. And so just because somebody signed something saying, we understand that we're taking the liability off of you, that acts as a deterrent. So you really just want to make sure that you get we have sample waiver in the insurance guide. So you can pull it straight from there. You can use something pretty simple But basically it just needs to say that, you know, it states their name, your PTA, and says that you know, don't hold them harmless. Sorry, don't hold them liable. You're holding them harmless. And they understand that they're taking that risk. But again, you can kind of pull our copy from the insurance guide if you'd like.
Thank you. Jill is asking about insurance coverage on off-site PTA events, sponsored events.
Off-site events?
Right. So like say for instance, if a PTA unit sponsors a trip going to like the aquarium, but it's a PTA sponsored event, or I'm assuming something like that.
Yeah, no, your coverage follows you. You do not have to have on-campus events. They can really be anywhere. As long as
Okay.
it's your event, your insurance coverage will follow you.
Okay. And I guess you did cover the busing. Someone, Samantha, wanted to know about the busing a little bit more because that is new. How do we get a certificate of insurance? Our school is requiring it for each event PTA holds in the building. Is it a separate certificate for each event?
What we try to do is they're asking to be added as an additional insured. So if this is your school or your district asking for it, we add it, and it's added for the whole year. And it creates a lot of work for you, for us, for everyone to create a new one for every single event. However, there are certain districts who want that certificate to have the name of the event for every single one. That's not the norm, but if yours is that way, just let us know and we'll give you a separate certificate. But from a you know, legitimacy standpoint, you only need one certificate. Once that district or, you know, entity is added, it's added for the full term of your policy, and it covers every event in the effective dates that are listed on that certificate. So you do not need each separate event to be listed on a separate certificate unless they're making a big deal about it.
Thank you. Another question we have, when renewing online, can we send a payment via check, or does it always have to be, you know, electronic?
Nope, it can definitely be check. You'll just, at the end, it'll give you an option to select your payment type, and you just select mail check. And then once we receive your check, we'll process the application.
Okay, so another question in regards to the bus comes from Maze. She says, can we as a PTA pay for the bus? Pay for bus transportation for students' field trip. We would like to put this under our we would like that put under I guess liability in case of an accident.
Yeah, so the problem is when it's not your event. So a lot of PTAs are paying for the transportation for a school event. And that just gets a little bit sticky because, again, your policy covers your event. So we recommend that to protect your own liability and your own policy, that if you want to pay for transportation for a school event, you gift the money to the school so that you don't have to be responsible, because you're not really there overseeing it. I mean, you're really not a part of it. And so if it is your event, again, no problem, pay for it. That's totally fine. But there's no reason to take on that liability unless the school is just demanding that you do that, which we see. And, you know, I know that's happening. It's just not the ideal situation if you can get away with gifting the money.
Okay, we have another. When vendors are at our event, how important is it to have a hold harmless agreement with the vendors for things from photo booths, entertainment, or those bounce houses?
I would say most, you know, PTAs are not requiring this. You know, it's a good practice, but I would say it's not a required item. What you do want to be careful about is when you sign a contract with a vendor, what their hold harmless in their contract says, because a lot of times their hold harmless will not be favorable, and it will say something that's the equivalent of any losses that are caused, you're responsible for. And that includes if the vendor causes them, if, you know, anybody's negligence, and it says any and all claims. and it could be claims that your policy doesn't cover. So if you see a hold harmless in your contract with a vendor, we recommend that you send it to us. Just, we'll tell you, this looks fine, or no, we really feel like you should push back on this language, and we'll just give you some suggestions about something that would be more favorable.
So I'm sure you covered this, but they just wanted you to talk a little bit more about AIM's audit requirements.
Great question. So under the crime coverage, there are two requirements to have a loss covered. The first one is that you have to check the bank statements monthly. So there has to be some proof that you reviewed the bank statements by someone that does not have signing authority. And you basically went through those transactions and said, yep, they look good. And there's proof, either an email where you passed it back to someone and said, hey, I reviewed this statement, it looks good. It's great because it has a date stamp and all that on it. If you want to do them, hand signed and dated, you can do that as well. But at the time of claim, they're going to ask for proof that you were looking at those bank statements and approving them by being approved by someone who does not have check signing authority. And you want to be careful about how you pull those down, because we see claims where the treasurer pulls down the bank statements and then alters them and gives them to someone to approve. So you want to try to have somebody who doesn't have the signing authority able to pull them down. And the second requirement is that you are doing an annual audit. So, we get questions about, well, what is an annual audit? What constitutes that? And, I know at the New York level, there may be some guidance. We have some kind of, guidance around what this needs to look like, but essentially you're just, you have a committee, assigned to reviewing the annual financials and making sure that everything, balances out and all the transactions are approved and there's no missing money, anything like that. So you'll need both of those items in the event of a claim.
So basically, we have to, as a PTA unit, we have to monthly or every month review or have our finances and reviewed by someone who's not on the that does not have check signing abilities, as well as have the annual audit, which is already a New York State PTA requirement.
Yeah, and again, it's just the monthly requirement is just reviewing the bank statement. So not necessarily the finances as a whole, but just those transactions in the bank statement to make sure that those look good. We see, and I don't know if, whose PTA allows this, but we see, checks signed out to cash, and somebody looked to see that check went in and out, but nobody checked to see what that cash was for. So things like that.
Boy. Okay.
Yeah.
But in your explanation, you were saying that the treasurer would download the bank statement. But how would a person that does not have signing clearance get access to the bank statements so that they could review them? Because usually the treasurer would then turn them over. So you were saying that you basically have to get them from the bank, but if I don't have signing privileges, how does that happen?
Well, I'm not sure what we do. I mean, in our organization is, like I have check signing authority, but we have, our accounting folks who have access to pull down all the data out from the banks. They have that access to log in, but they don't have signing authority. So if your bank can give you two separate, that's ideal.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jamie. Are PTA units covered for any out-of-state trips?
Out-of-state trips are
great.
fine. As long as you are in the United States, your coverage will follow you.
Another question came from Beth. You spoke about claims for embezzlement. Please speak to what is necessary to get the claim covered, et cetera, monthly. I think you covered that, monthly reconciliations, et cetera. That's really in regards to the audit. And also, is that also speaking on to how to solidify a claim for embezzlement? What you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, the only other additional piece to that is that you do have to file a police report in order to process that claim. So if you want, you can make the claim, and then once you talk to an adjuster, they'll walk you through the process, but they will, if you have not already filed a police report, you will need to.
So that's important that a police report must be filed.
Yes.
Okay, and they have to have already had the monthly reconciliation by a non-signer. A review of the finances by a non-signer on the bank account, and also have to have proof of the audit, the annual audit. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. Um, our our district budget didn't include field trips. Our PTA gifted the money to the district for the busing. If it is gifted, is there liability?
You know, it's not impossible, but that is exactly how we recommend that you do it. If it is gifted, then technically the district or the school chose to spend that money on buses, and you should not have any liability. It would be very difficult to connect liability to the PTA. Stranger things have happened, but it would be very difficult, and that's exactly what we recommend that you do.
Okay, so this person, she asked the question, I believe, but she was just one clarification. If the PTA event is off-site or a dance is off-site at a venue, it will be covered under our insurance, yes?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the loss is within the you know, the parameters of the policy, yeah, it doesn't matter that it's on-site or off-site, that's fine.
Okay, one more question about the certificate of insurance. How do we get an actual certificate? Who do we contact? Are there forms?
Yes. Do I have, oh, I forgot to add our contact information. Sorry if you can still see my screen. I put our email address up here and our phone number. The process that we walked through with going online, you can also on that first page when you log in, there will be some options that say upgrade coverage, request a certificate of insurance. And you can do that online if you want to, and then just enter in all the data that you need and we'll email it to you. Or you can reach out to us. If you call us, we'll have to get a form and you'll have to sign it. So it's easier to go through the online process. But yeah, reach out anyway and we'll get it to you.
It's just two more questions, which is great. Elena, and I believe we covered it about the theme park, whether if the PTA event is at a theme park or unit, I guess the PTA event is at a theme park, whether there's coverage. So
Yep.
I believe you said yes. Okay. The other is Sophia's asking, so field trips are considered an enrichment, not PTA events. AIM liability does not cover non-PTA events. So is it better off to have the district cover the transportation costs and cover by the district's liability insurance? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and everyone, okay, so when I said there's one more question, I have people jumping up and just to
We have
confirm,
time.
if the PTA is covering the cost of a field trip, they can also cover the cost of busing to the district. Yes
If they're
or
covering
no?
the cost of the field trip, meaning it's their event, right?
I'm not sure, so it's just saying, just to confirm, if PTA is covering the cost of a field trip, can they cover the busing paid to the district?
So here's the thing. The reason that we want it to be your event is because you're there, you're manning it, you're planning it, you're making the decision. So if something goes wrong, it's on your watch, it's under your supervision. But if it's the district's event, even if you pay for it, the PTA is not there supervising, calling shots about this is safe, this isn't safe. So that's kind of how we draw the line of, is this your event or is it not? So we don't encourage you to pay for an event that you are not supervising, manning, planning, that kind of thing. We recommend that you gift the money in that case. So in this scenario, if it's your event, then totally fine to pay for the transportation and do the transportation. If it's not your event, it's just better if you don't pay for it all around and you gift the money.
Okay, thank you. We have a question. It says, will you share this deck with participants? I don't know what that means.
maybe we're talking about the declarations page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what we do is we send out a certificate, and that is it looks, well, there's a consolidated certificate of insurance, and that just lists your coverages with the dates. But there's also a certificate in the policy that looks just like a deck page, and we do email that out after the renewal. But you can log in, and it'll say documents. There's a little documents tab, and you can click in there, and you can pull it from there, or you can just email us, and we'll send it to you. Either way is fine, but yes, we will provide it to you.
Okay, so I think someone was asking about a list of events covered, but Sonia, thank you for answering. There is a list of items that are covered under section 5B under the resource guide, which is great. Mays asked again, if we're paying the admission to like say the zoo or amusement park, are we responsible for any students that are injured there?
It depends on if you're, I mean, is it a PTA event where the leadership is accompanying them and, it's their event, or are they just, giving tickets away that they have paid for to students, and students are going on their own? There could be liability in the latter case, but it would be much more difficult if you're just giving them a ticket. They could still try to hold you liable, but if it is your event and you are supervising them at the zoo, then definitely you have liability. If you're just giving them a ticket, then it's a lot less likely.
Okay. And again, the busing issue is relatively new. So Marie is asking again to clarify, the district pays for trips and PTA reimburses the district. It sounds like we can also pay for the cost of busing.
Yeah.
I think you've answered that more. It's new for us, so to hear
Yeah,
yes,
no problem. We get a lot of questions about auto coverage, and every unit out there seems, we get tons of questions about like, we're paying for the transportation, but it's not really our event. But yes, we would say that again, you can, it's best to gift the money to the district and not pay for it directly, like write the check or send the money directly to the bus company, but it is fine to pay for the transportation. We just prefer you do it indirectly.
And just so everyone understands that this webinar is being recorded. And so our special question was, what is the number one claim that is what is the number one PTA claim that is presented to AIM? And I believe Jamie answered it maybe 2 or 3 different times, but if Jamie, if you'd like to say what it is, you can.
Sure. Number one claim is embezzlement.
Great.
Protect your bank statement.
And Mays just wants clarification, I guess, for planning of the end of the year trip that is supervised by the teachers. So they will be sponsoring a trip, say, to the zoo that's supervised by the teachers. So if a student gets injured, is the PTA liable?
The PTA is paying for it and supervising it?
No, the teachers are going. So I guess this may be an enrichment. Mays would have to clarify this. But I think if the questions are not covered, I think I strongly advise everyone to call the 1-800 number, because this way they can ask that direct question and then they can get that direct answer. Because in the chat, it's it's only a small component, and there's no dialogue back and forth. So I do strongly recommend everyone to dial the 1-800 number. I do anytime I have any questions about anything relative to a color run, basketball, bounty houses, no matter a trip. And now I guess the new thing will be the buses. But so I do strongly recommend that we do that. Call the 1-800 number. Jamie, you've been so very generous with your time and just giving us this information. We really, really do appreciate you taking the time on this nice cold Wednesday evening. We really do appreciate it. I'm gonna let our president, Patty, give any closing remarks she might have.
Thanks again, Robin. Yeah, to kind of bookend what I opened up with, you know, the insurance policy and the relationship we have with AIM is awesome. But I just want to remember and remind everybody what we've learned during the presentation is we have to do our part too. So we have to make sure that we are making good decisions, that we are doing those monthly reviews, reconciliations, and our audits, and really, you know, making sure that we all take a look through Section 5B of the resource guide, which you can link to on the state website. Really, that's great information that AIM helps us draft every year, so we know it's up to date and it includes all the information that you need. And also allows you to download separately as a single page the play, pause, and stop list, which is the one that we refer to of the things that you can and can't do. And really that for any officers that are on here tonight, that should be something that's in your file all the time, because a lot of times people will bring something up at a meeting and say, well, let's go do this. And the most popular one lately is let's go to the axe throwing venue, and then we can easily say, no, I'm sorry, that's not covered on our insurance, and here it is right here on the list. So I want to thank you for your support and making sure that we all stay insurance friendly.
Thank you so much. Axe throwing. Yes, okay. Well, thank you very much again, Jamie. I just want to thank you on behalf of the New York State PTA and the leadership team and committee and just our leadership again. We just want to thank you for saying yes to providing the webinar and just, you know, giving this valued information that will help us be better leaders in our prospective units throughout New York State. And I just want to thank you. Thank you everyone for attending and giving us the time. Again, the webinars will be recorded. The special questions are there. I hope that you will all, you know, utilize this information to make you a better leader within your unit, and also to make sure that you have the right coverage. And I strongly do recommend that you do the monthly reconciliations so that, heaven forbid, if something should happen, you're already covered. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.